right? Don't come to us and say, by the way, First Nations, you're entitled to $6,500 per student. But we're gonna give the French immersion $18,000 a student. Or, in Thunderchild's situation, here's $6,500 a student, 13 kilometers away in Turtleford, you're getting, $8,500. Right? But don't mind that. Just continue signing your agreement. Come audit time on nominal roll. This student doesn't qualify, that student doesn't qualify, so on and so forth. Yet the towns just send in one piece of paper that says, and it's approved. Meanwhile, we have to go through papers and papers and papers of putting together a nominal roll to get our dollars. Right, that's just one example. Right, so, and that, in Thunderchild's situation, that's what I can say. The chiefs can speak to their situation.
Basically the same thing.
Would it be fair to characterize then, when you talk about these amendments that come in the multi-year agreements, in your experience then, are these amendments always to the detriment of the First Nations?
Well, it's rolling, as they figure it out, as they figure out their game plan, all of a sudden they introduce legislation, right? They introduce legislation that then have to be part of the amendment. For example, the issue with Pepixi, if you don't mind me talking about this, Headman Richard Arnquell, is that their issue was reporting, the reporting requirement. They didn't have a problem reporting, but INAC wouldn't flow money to Pepixis because it didn't fit their criteria for reporting. Well, right? So you're willing to hold hostage money for a First Nation because of a reporting requirement when they said, we want to continue reporting the way we've been reporting. Why all of a sudden should that reporting requirement change? Right? So those are just some little games that go on. I don't know if it's power, and control. But you cannot operate where government, FTA bands that signed a 5-year, 4-year agreement. That was not too long ago here, a couple of years back. Once they were locked into that agreement, the federal government said, when there were salary increases, you're not entitled to those increases because you're locked into this agreement. Now you're locked into an agreement, but by the way, you have to sign these amendments. So what is it? Right? And nobody's taking, the government is not, Indian Affairs is not answering the questions. Be accountable and responsible and answer what it is we're asking. Because any other person would be asking the same question in regards to why. Justify to us why that's a, don't give us the excuse, it's Treasury Board policy. How many of us heard that? It's Treasury Board policy. It's Treasury Board. That's what Region tells us. And then we start finding out from other First Nations that it's not even policy. Right? So it's very frustrating. And I really thank the chiefs, who are here. Comments at the end? Oh, Larry, go ahead, Chief.
I'd just like to add a little bit more to what Chief Wapas is talking about. The agreements you asked, are they opened up for discussion or negotiations? And no, they're not. Those agreements are one-sided. They're enforceable only one way, and that's on us to meet the new terms and conditions that are put in there. So we have to have that opportunity to even discuss what's being put in there. We're acknowledging unknowns in those documents, legislation that could come down the road that we don't know about. We're acknowledging those legislations and saying, yeah, well, by signing here, we're agreeing to that. So it's one-sided, and I know Yellow Quill is into the 3rd year of a 5-year agreement. What does that 5-year agreement mean when you sign it? Really nothing. It's not enforceable on the government. We've signed it with the intention that here's our funding for the next 5 years. Year 2 comes, well, we get a week notice. Well, you got a new agreement, we have amendments that you have to sign off. We protested, we said no. And, but we do have, probably a $2 million salary in our community. A lot of it is teachers. So we were forced to sign last year. This year again, we signed under duress again, letting them know that we need to have these discussions before, not 2 weeks or a week before the new funding comes out. So the opportunity to even talk about the changes is not even given to us, so that has to change.
So just a final comment from our vice chief, Dutch Leroy, who we very much appreciate, you know, helping coordinate this and helping us with his staff and his technical and his experience as a leader, you know, from his office.
Yeah. Thank you, and from the First Nations of Saskatchewan, from the executive office, we are fully supportive. You've heard the frustrations here on how the ground is constantly shifting in terms of expectations of the Department of Indian Affairs when it comes to what they term accountability. We have those structures in our community. We are accountable to our nations. We have unqualified audits in, out, but still we are subject to additional audits from our Department of Indian Affairs. So we as an organization continue to support the First Nations in Saskatchewan as they advance their struggles collectively. And we will next week be ensuring that this is part of our assembly, which we are having in PA. So, thank you again.
Thank you very much, vice chief.
Okay? Okay, thank you all for coming, media. And the individual chiefs will be available one-on-one should you want to scrub them up. Scrum.
Oh, Shannon, go ahead.
Is it called a scrum or a scrub?
Shannon Gould is the counselor for Satellite Cree Nation. Treaty 6.
I just needed to say that on behalf of, as a woman and grandmother and mother, that we, if anything, honor the treaties. They were signed, those are agreements. We talk about these agreements that we're talking about funding, but there's an agreement. When we were signing our agreements, there was no talk like we're having today. And another thing, we're not here to ask for permission or have someone else give authority over us.